Today's guest is Steve Dart, a man whose marketing resume is extremely impressive. In 2001, Steve joined Red Bull Australia's executive leadership team as their marketing and branding specialist. Over his 7 years working for the Juggernaut brand, Steve was responsible for the introduction of high-quality initiatives, programs, and activations across Australia, securing the brand as one of the biggest in Australia at the end of his tenure, raising their growth by 400%. Following his successful stint at Red Bull, Steve then went on to work with Queensland-based LSKD, where he helped them launch to a national-wide audience, resulting in them becoming one of the largest apparel brands in Australia. Ahead of the Commonwealth Games in 2018, held on the Gold Coast, Steve joined Play Hard Sports as the head of sales and marketing, with a single objective in mind: introduce Play Hard Sports equipment into the 2018 Commonwealth Games. An objective he successfully achieved with flying colours. Now, Steve is Australia's leading LinkedIn high-performance trainer, helping business professionals be successful in their day-to-day sales and marketing activities through leveraging the power of LinkedIn and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Expect to learn about why LinkedIn is the #1 most opportunistic platform on social media in 2024 and beyond. You'll also learn about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile to get the biggest ROI from your sales and marketing activities on LinkedIn. You'll also learn about why building relationships is fundamental for success in not only B2C sales, but also B2B. This is an episode you don't want to miss. And I say that on every episode, but that's because the power of the knowledge and the expertise that our guests, and in today's instance, Steve Dart, shares with us is so valuable that even if you implement only 1% of what they talk about on our episodes, well, your business's marketing is going to excel so much. So sit back, enjoy, and let's welcome Steve Dart to the pod. Steve, good morning. How are you going?
Yeah, good, Didier. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. And there's not many other people in Australia that have the level of knowledge that you do around LinkedIn. So I'm really excited. It's a platform that's very close to my heart and I love using it every day. And it's one of the fastest growing platforms out there, even though it's been around for so long. So my question for you, why LinkedIn? Why is it so important these days?
Yeah, good question. Well, I was originally on LinkedIn many years ago and around about 2005 or 6 and didn't do anything with it, because I already had a job, so I didn't really need it. So I sort of bounced back off. And then it wasn't until a bit later that I realized that this was such a valuable platform, especially when I think it was 2008, Richard Branson became the first million follower person. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So over the years, I just watched it build and build, and now it's into its 21st year. And it's just had 10% growth this year. So it's doing really well. And I just see it as a great networking tool. It really was initially made for recruiters, but there's a lot of B2B professionals, and behind B2B, there's always a C, as in consumer.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a really important bit to touch on, B2C, even though it's B2B, because a lot of people see LinkedIn as this platform where people are going about boasting about their achievements in their careers, and sometimes they even bring things outside of their career onto that as well, which is of course very good for the personal touch side of things, but it can be seen as a bit of a boast. And there's this term that goes around, LinkedIn wankers. Have you heard of that term before?
No, and it's surprising that said. I think it's a very friendly site. Like, I look at a lot of the content and a lot of the engagement, and I see it very supportive. I don't really see too much where people are jumping on and being abusive and being unapologetic and things like that. So I actually see it as a very friendly place to be on there, especially I've had that experience. I know that when I'm on LinkedIn and I'm actually engaging with my clients on there, I'm trying to teach them how to use it properly and be very serving of everyone else rather than self-serving, and it's the giver's game. that I love about LinkedIn. It's about always give with no expectations in return. And of
Sure.
course, reciprocity comes back, and you also get so many good opportunities to collaborate with great business professionals.
Yeah, most definitely. And do you think that's one of the benefits of the platform that a lot of other platforms don't offer, is that collaboration with other professionals?
Yeah, well, it's a whole different revenue model, right? Because most of the other platforms are advertisement revenue, where LinkedIn's to do with subscription. So it really needs people on that platform. So the more that they get people on the platform, the more that they support the recruitment model, and it's worth about 11 billion revenue a year to LinkedIn. So the more that people stay on the platform, the better experience everyone has, and the more recruiters can actually contact people one-on-one. And so you imagine if the recruitment person tried to contact someone on LinkedIn, they weren't there, they'd go back to LinkedIn and say, your product doesn't work. So make sure that everyone has that great user experience on there.
Sure. So recruitment was the original idea of LinkedIn, correct? When it launched, it was
Yeah.
the idea of find
Yeah.
jobs, find the best prospects, correct?
Yeah. Actually, I only just learned this recently, but it came from an idea of, 6 degree separation, which is six handshakes and you can meet anyone in the world.
Mm.
Now, God, I can't remember the actor's name who did Footloose. Was it Kenny?
Oh, jeez, not
Oh,
sure.
I was going to say Kenny Loggins. I think it is. Anyway, that's another story. I'll go on another time. But yeah, there's a great story I'd love to tell you off camera. But yeah, so yeah, it started recruitment and then came through, and then people started connecting on the platform more and more. And I think only this year in January it got to 1 billion people. So it's a new profile being built. I think every 3 seconds or something like that. So amazing amount of people who are transitioning across. And the algorithm is changing consistently. Like we've had 160 new features within the platform only over the last 3 months.
Jeez, 160 in 3 months.
Mm.
Wow. And is that a lot on the back end, or is it a fair bit front end as well?
All throughout, because it's got three products. It's got talent solutions, it's got marketing solutions, and it's also got sales solutions. So there's a lot of activity on there. So they want to make sure that the experience from all those people who are using those premium products are getting, advantages, how to actually do business development, talent acquisition, how to do ads correctly. So I think it's a very user-friendly platform, to be honest. I can't believe that you can open it up. It's a free platform and then you can connect to people. I just was on a call yesterday with someone into America and I thought, how good is this? Like we're conversing on Zoom, we're talking through LinkedIn, we're looking at each other's. It's just such a great time to be alive.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Yeah.
It's and I'm amazed equally, just like you, that there's so many people that still aren't on the platform that are in business.
Oh,
It's
it's amazing because I see so many different websites and I see the icons of Facebook and Instagram, and I just don't see LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, this is it's in its infancy, even though it's only in its 21st year, it's still really young. Like we've still got a lot of growth on the platform to come. So Microsoft, who is the founder or the parent of LinkedIn, must be very, very happy.
oh, they've
That's
got
yeah.
yeah. And if I can just say a little bit of a personal story as well.
Please.
Before I came into business, my goal was to be a professional goalkeeper.
Yep.
And so I was doing all the training associated with that, but I needed to connect with scouts and coaches and what forth at higher level clubs. And this is when I would have been 15, 16. And I thought, all right, let's open a LinkedIn account and let's just start posting some stuff on there to get a bit of a personal brand going on that side of things. And that's a completely unrelated field to business. That's in sport. And yet there was still a benefit from doing it there. And then I come into the business world and I see there's so many different fields that people aren't jumping on to LinkedIn through. So my question for you is there a field or an industry where LinkedIn doesn't work? Because I can't think of one that doesn't work. I think there's a benefit across the field on LinkedIn.
Yeah, look, LinkedIn haven't let enough people know that this platform is really a creators platform and it's there for thought leadership and sharing knowledge and networking. People still aren't on LinkedIn because they think it's a recruitment or a job posting platform. And if they've got a job, they don't really need to be on there. So I think they don't realize that there's only a small amount of creators and people who are looking to network, especially globally, have got a chance to talk to each other with one click. As soon as you do an outreach message and you are then connected to someone, wherever it be in the world, it gives you both permission to talk to each other. in one click.
Yeah,
Like where you might get emails buried and they go through to spam. When you get a message come through LinkedIn, you obviously normally open it to see what that message is, so that the intricacies there is really sharp. I love it.
definitely. But it's not enough just to have an account, correct?
Correct.
You can't just open an
Correct.
account and now you're on LinkedIn and it's going to work for you. You have to do a bit more than that, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a strategy. Like having, I call it being best dressed now. Actually, having a profile, which is great, so you actually put your details, is one step, but you really want to have it optimized to what we call all star, which just means everything on there is populated. Okay, that means filled out correctly. Now, if you can actually have your profile be switched up to client attracting, which means when they land on your profile within 3 to 8 seconds, they actually get to understand what you do, and it's not cryptic in that kind of sense. So it's really important that when people are looking at you for the first time, they get a sense of what you do and how you can help them. Because this is what this is. This is really a networking opportunity at first glance. But we really have to populate LinkedIn with the right, correct information, because its other products use us to help sell their products. So when we fill it out completely to All Star, that's using its other sales solutions and its acquisition solutions to help people find us in keyword searches and things like that. So it's really important that we give LinkedIn what they want and they give us a great experience to be globally found.
Sure. So touching on that optimization then of the profile, and you want to attract people's attention in 3 to 8 seconds, and then they know exactly what it is you do.
Yep.
What's the best place to start? Is it the headline? Is it the bio, profile photo? Like, what's the best place to start?
Yeah, start from the top. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a really good current photo. And the reason that is because we'd like to do, like LinkedIn is a reason it puts a personal profile before a business company profile, because we do business with people first, connection with intention through human to humans, as you can see on the backboard there. So the main thing is to have a very good profile photo that is recent and actually does show a warm smile, beautiful whites of your eyes, showcasing a very professional photo. I know some people like to zoom it back a bit and show a little bit of their dress attire through corporate, but I think bring that right up and show those features and be really trustworthy in your photo. And one of the things I always tell my clients is have the whites of your eyes showing, because that builds trust. You know, it's the trust. LinkedIn's all about know, like, and trust, and having that photo really clear and current is the first step on that. And then you go through to the banner. Now, a lot of people just put a design banner up there by maybe having a cityscape because they work in the city and things like that. That's a big mistake. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn banner image has exactly your message to market, or your market actually in the description. So, you know, on mine, I help you unlock the power of LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, and my most trusted, to showcase you, and I actually say you, to the world's professional community. So let's go, right? So I'm actually giving them a nudge to say, this is what I do, this is how I can help within 3 to 8 seconds. You're reading that, and it's giving them an invitation just to get a little bit enticed to read down further. And then they'll come to my profile photo and see the trustworthiness. And then they'll look a bit further. We're getting them down the funnel, and they'll look at my headline, and it's not business development officer, things like that. It says LinkedIn performance trainer, and I help business professionals be more successful in their day-to-day sales and marketing activity, leveraging all the amazing features of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I tell you what I do in my headline. And the reason I do is because any activity I do on LinkedIn, my photo and that headline follows me on every post I do, recommendation I do, everything I do, it follows me there as my power and positioning statement. So
Yeah.
that's why I actually put that straight in.
So touch on the profile photo again. There's a big trend on, especially the likes of TikTok and Instagram, where you'll have the headshot of the person, which is great, same as LinkedIn, but they'll have a colored background to indicate that they're a creator as opposed to just an ordinary person on the account. So what are your thoughts on having a plain white background versus a colored background, or having, you know, some trees or something in behind your head there?
Yeah, look, I love that idea. If that's code for creator, I love that. I see a lot of creators on LinkedIn doing that. I have a black one or a neutral one because I don't want the eye to be taken away from my eyes to look around the background, keeping that attention focused. So anything with trees or anything in the background, try to remove it, have it neutral or colored, as you said. I think would be a great way to go. Everything we do is a guide. It's not a rule. You know, LinkedIn give us this user experience, this user interface, and they give us these areas to populate. I always try to use it to our advantage, right? We're the marketers in B2B marketing, even to the point that where we have the pronouns, I actually use a custom one, and mine is an expression tag that says empowering you. So that sits right next to my name. So once again, everything is you and your when you deal with me.
Yeah. So you're actually talking to a person as opposed to an avatar.
Yeah, correct. Because I believe that when you've got one person reading that screen, you're making a connection. And once again, connection with intention. I'm helping you. And one of the big successes I have when I've got with dealing with prospects is I jump on and do a 15-minute call with them. And I give them everything I can value-wise within that 15 minutes and leave them shell-shocked of like, whoa, what did you just give me? That means I've just given some value without asking for anything in return. But lately, what I've been doing, I've been saying, if you've got value with that, can you leave me a recommendation in my profile? Because then you're helping me with the next customer because I'm not transacting you, that they can see what my value is in a short span. So you imagine I'm working with you over several weeks. If I've just given you that um, bit of experience within that 15 minutes. And the reason I do that is because when I was with Red Bull, the sampling part of our business was one of the most important because we needed to give them the product and a message. So whenever they went to a point of purchase and they saw all that color of beverages, they knew what the can did and why it mattered to them.
Right. Okay.
Was the cut through, right? So that's what I do with the sampling and with 15 minutes. So any business looking into this podcast is make sure you set up a 15 minutes for you and sample your genius to them. And when you do, give them everything you've got, come out all firing in that first 15 minutes and blow them away.
And that's going to be a little bit different to a discovery call, right? It's not so much delving into pain points and what forth as you would in that. It's more so just give information, give value. Is that correct?
Yeah. Obviously, the discovery call, you'd go a bit deeper. Like you can have that. We have ours with the Calendly set up. So 15 minutes, which means we've never met the person before. Then we warm to them, and then we might do a discovery call or invite them through to a LinkedIn audio event. We might get them up on stage. You know, just multiple touch points. You know, and obviously what's called mere exposure effect, because you want to start to get people to recognize you more and more over time.
Sure. Perfect. So we've touched on the profile photo, the banner, the headline, and one of the best tips I love there that you said you can use the banner as an additional headline and you can put text in the banner as opposed to having a still image, which is great. So then moving down the profile, you got the pronouns, custom pronouns. Then you've got the bio, and then you've got the experience under that. So what's some good guidelines when it comes to writing a terrific bio?
Yeah, well, it used to be called summary, but it's called the about section. So what you want to do in that area is make it, a lot of people actually have third party, like Didier is this. No, forget that. Say, hi, I'm Didier. This is what I do, and jump straight in to what you do and how you help, because it will truncate with see more. A lot of people won't go and open it up and read down further. So you need to wow them with how you help them with an introduction in first person before they click see more and expand your summary. And then actually detail that out, do what we call problem solution outcome. After your introduction in the summary, this is the 3 problems my clients face, and this is the 3 solutions to those problems, and then do a call to action or connect with me or something like that. Then you actually can show that you've walked in their shoes, you understand their pain points, and here's the solution for them. Just very quickly in 3 points, the power of 3. That entices them to read down further into your experiences to see what you've done over that time, and then into recommendations to qualify what you've said above in the top of the profile is actually correct. And that's closing the loop of the using your profile as an introductory sales funnel to you.
Right. Okay. And again, it's all about the you. It's the individual as opposed to an avatar. Problems, solution, outcome. Speaking very.
You'd be better off within your LinkedIn profile to be more niched, because that's what people are looking for. They're specific solutions to their own individual problems. Once you become more generalized and not specialized, there's a little bit of a disconnect. So be as specialized as you can and not generalized.
Sure. Okay, so now we've created an account, which is a good step to get onto LinkedIn in the first place. We've now optimized our profile for our client, for our target market, as opposed to
Yeah.
just an avatar. We're actually speaking to them. Then you've got to create content. And this is the key part, because a lot of people get to that second step and that's it. They've got their profile and they'll sit back and just let it sit there for years. But creating content is so important. And I saw a stat that you sent through the other day, 34% increase in video on LinkedIn over the past 12 months, which is amazing.
Yep.
So alongside video, what other pieces of content can people create, and how can they go about doing that?
Well, what you can do, let me give you a couple of strategy pillars. You can do personal storytelling, and this can all be done through video, which is great for you. Thought leadership, you can also do what we call edutainment. So it's education and entertainment combined. People love that. People are on LinkedIn to learn and connect. That's what they're there for primarily, okay? Any industry related content, unique value proposition that you're putting forward, employee client spotlights. I think this is a big, powerful thing when you can actually do kudos posts. What I've been doing recently, when I've done these 15-minute calls with a new prospect, I've also extracted what their genius is. And then I've done a kudos post on LinkedIn and let their network and my network, we've had a conversation and really spotlighted and celebrated what their genius in market is. And it's just the best way to start a relationship, by giving that value first. So there's that. There's also interactive posts with questions and polls and things like that, tips and best practices, industry trends and insights, case studies, and opinion pieces. And that's just the start of it. You can go way down and do lots more, but make sure whatever you do, you're coming from a thought leadership mindset. Before you post any content, think about, what value is this bringing my audience?
Yeah, as opposed to what we touched on earlier, where people are a bit more self-centered and they're boasting about their achievements. Really, just make it, what value can I provide to my market, to my audience? Because that's going to be most beneficial for you, and it's going to be most beneficial for them as well.
Yeah, people always love to learn. Especially on LinkedIn, there's a lot of lifelong learners. I know I'm one. So if you can provide information and value that's going to help them be better in their professional life, they're going to want to see more of your content. So they stay on there longer, because the algorithm at the moment is timing what's called dwell time. It means when your content comes through the feed of their screen, the longer they stay on it, the algorithm times it. So that means if they stay on there for a certain amount of time, the algorithm will then serve more content up to that person. So we are the algorithm teaching it to send us more great content. So if they just actually fly by and don't read it, and it goes out of the feed, we won't get more of that content back. So the more engaging, the more helpful, people will sit into that content more, they'll digest it, and then hopefully they'll react and engage with it. And then you start to build a connection base out of that. If they, you reach out to one another, and then they become part of your network. Whenever you post content on LinkedIn, it always goes out to your most recent connections and followers as first point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're very fresh and they want to see if it actually is a relationship there, and they're actually interested in your content, correct? Yeah. So I think it's important to note as well with dwell time, there's a lot of different types of dwell time on LinkedIn. There's the dwell time of reading a text-based status post. There's the dwell time of watching a video, clicking through a carousel PDF. Like there's more than just one dwell time, yeah? So like it's very, 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 very.
Yeah, well, it's all timing. So the longer I think about the content, that's more supportive of staying on the content piece longer. Videos, of course, you can stay there. You're watching, you're getting more interested in the video and what the content is. So that's timing. Also LinkedIn polls, because you're spending time to read it and then putting your questions or answers, that kind of thing. And then there's the carousels. Then they're not called carousels on LinkedIn, they're called PDF documents now. That means as they load up and there's 6 or 7 in a row, as you trigger through that arrow forward, it's triggering the algorithm once again to send you more of that content. So anything that you're going to spend longer on the content piece, the more that LinkedIn algorithm will serve you up more of that. Another thing also is, if you like someone who's creating some great content, to hit their subscription bell on their profile, which then you'll receive a lot more of their top content into your notification. So you're bypassing really the algorithm and just getting served up. But you don't want to do that to everyone, because obviously your notifications get too full with just everything.
Of course. What would you say is the biggest opportunity on LinkedIn at the moment?
Showing up.
And creating content and engaging with people, commenting on their posts.
And having a plan, having a frequency. Like you will, and this is coming back to the recruiter model. LinkedIn, the more, because it needs to serve more data up to recruiters, individuals, the longer we stay on there, the better it is for the platform. And we're shown to more recruiters, obviously. So if we're consistent on there, posting, say, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're engaging, the algorithm loves us. It'll keep us more top of mind on the platform. If we don't show up for 5 days, it forgets about us and we don't get all that opportunity through the algorithm ratio. So keep on there consistent, frequently. And the big thing I love to talk about is doing 10 things on LinkedIn before 10 a.m., whether that's engaging to 10 content pieces, doing 10 outreach connections. Just do 10 before 10 a.m. Get in the frequency. This is a great business tool. So you learn to use it as that. So most people, when they actually commuting early in the morning or getting to work, it's usually between 8:30 to 10, that kind of stage. So that's when people are most active on LinkedIn. So if you can actually be doing 10 before 10 in that time, you're most likely to pick up that interest quite quickly from someone who's in front of their screen who'll see your content come through and hopefully engage.
That's a great tip as well, not just for LinkedIn, but across a variety of platforms. I remember the Gary Vee strategy, the $1.80 strategy, 90 comments, 2 cents on each one. That's a dollar.
Give you 2 cents. Wasn't that fantastic? And he still talks about it now.
So it's a great practice everywhere.
Yeah.
The other, it's not necessarily a downside, but it's, I think people get caught up in a lot when that comes to creating content, not just on LinkedIn, but across all platforms. They get caught up in engagement metrics. So likes, shares, comments, followers, etc. Do you believe that you should be prioritizing the number of impressions or the engagement that you get on LinkedIn, or should you be prioritizing the quality of content, or is there a balance in there somewhere that you can aim for as well?
Yeah, look, I would say in regards to reaction likes and shares and that kind of thing, it's great to get them, but you've got a lot of what we call silent majority on LinkedIn. Like they see your content, but they don't do anything. There's no reason for them to do anything. So it really is up to you to try and engage through your content. At the end of your content piece, have a call to action or pose a question so you can get engagement. And there's a thing at the moment called comment gating. That means when you write content and someone engages and you engage back on them, and then you might put a part two of your content back into the comments and reignite the conversation in the thread, which is then giving the algorithm more ratio outreach so people stay longer. And sorry, what was the question? Because I was just going off.
Yeah, so should we prioritize impressions, prioritize the value of content, or can we find a balance in between?
I think both, 100% both. Like obviously it's the value of the content that's going to get people to stay on longer, and it's showcasing that you actually have great insights to what you're talking about. And it really also comes back to how you just structure your content. Make sure it's smart formatted so it's nice and easy to read, not just on desktop, but on mobile. 70% of people are reading and engaging content on their mobile. So make sure it's not clusters of paragraphs. Like we don't do that anymore. We write expanded. We have a great hook that's going to be almost magazine-like to get them to stop the scroll and read. And then we actually smart format, have it easy to read with our point of view sprinkled through that. And then at the end, have a call to action. Or I'm even talking to most people about a LinkedIn signature, which has almost a replica or a duplicate of what you've got in your profile at the very bottom of your post to say who you are, what you do, and to follow you by clicking the bell, like actually get them to do something at the end of your post.
And that's a great reinforcement tool as well, is that if you just provided all this value, here's some credibility to back up exactly what I've just said, so that you've got that trust in me.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's an SSI score, Steve?
It's your social selling index score, and it's a metric that LinkedIn puts into place to measure the activity of its billion users. Now, it used to be more supportive of selling the premium product like Sales Navigator, but because there's so many people on the platform now, it really is just a measurement tool of how you engage with people, how you're building your connections, what you're writing, and there's a whole different quadrant of details in regards to that. I actually had a look at my one. I think I was sitting at 80 out of 100, and I was number one across the quadrants, like the connections and things like that. But what's interesting, it's a live read, so it's going up and down all the time.
Sure.
So maybe in your show notes, you can put the SSI link and let people have a look and things like that.
100% will do that, definitely. and it takes a fair bit of time for that score to go up. For full disclosure for people, I've been one of your clients, and when we started, my SSI score was probably around 33, 34 out of 100. And over the past 12 months, I've slowly been going up. I'm sitting around about 60 at the moment, but it's so up and down. Like sometimes it'll just drop all of a sudden to a low 50, and then it'll be above 60 or whatever the case is. But that just goes back to the consistency as you spoke about before. Post consistently, engage consistently, connect with the right people so you can build up that SSI score, because it's a trust score at the end of the day for the platform.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it does have its ups and downs and ebbs and flows because it depends how much you're engaging. If you're doing a celebration kudos post, it depends what kind of outreach connection you're doing. The main thing is you want to be doing thought leader content and reaching out and getting new connections all the time. Build your connection base. Like LinkedIn gives you 30,000 as a maximum. Like really strive for that. You want to make sure that you're connecting with the right people. That's going to be worth business development. And another product that I'm not sure we're going to talk about, but is my most trusted, and that's like a Chrome extension that actually is almost like a referral tool where you can take people from LinkedIn to my most trusted and then ask for warm referrals. I'm seeing that more across the platform than ever before now, where rather than doing a cold outreach to someone, you can see who they're connected to and then ask them, would you mind doing a warm referral? And 9 times out of 10, they're saying, yes, I'd love to. And those people are meeting. So once again, it's a phenomenal networking platform.
And a fair few listeners have probably seen the My Most Trusted posts come through on LinkedIn because they're categorized by those little introductions. Hey, I've just introduced XYZ with ABC, wishing them all the best. And then it says My Most Trusted down the bottom. So there's a very, very big integration between the two platforms.
Yeah, look, at the moment, I think there's around about 40,000 members globally and building. But LinkedIn, once again, it's a networking tool. So about warm introductions, it's about meeting people on the platform and just driving opportunities to share your experiences. I think that's a big part of it, because so many people have come through the business career or professional career and have got so much to share, but don't share it. And then, it's a great way of helping people out. And that's what I love about the platform. It's about jumping into those comments and giving your experience and insights of what you've experienced, because I even know people that have jumped into comments and been asked to go on a podcast show, and from that podcast show they've been asked to speak on stage somewhere. That's how quick it can transition through. And the great thing about the podcast, what we're doing here, Diddy, here, is this is called pillar content, and we can break this down. You can use it for memes, you can use it for blog posts, you can use it for bits and pieces for videos. It's such a great pillar content down to micro content. So what a great thing to do.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with a podcast. As you said, take it into a blog post. You can create clips out of it. You post that on social media, on LinkedIn, especially seeing as that 34% increase in video is getting favored a lot more by LinkedIn. Take advantage of podcasts,
Yeah, I think that's because of the discovery feeds just come to the algorithm, which is they call it, obviously Gary Vaynerchuk called the TikTokification. He's right. It's about having that short form videos now coming through the in-app experience, where you can click on a video now and it's immersing to video of that interest. So where you might have had, say, 5,000 views, now you can get 500,000 views because it's an interest graph, not a social graph. It's a whole different thing. And that's why I think video is going to come into play. So you're in a prime spot at Fixon by helping people leverage the amazing discovery feed on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time for sure. And I'm in the middle of reading Gary V's latest book, and he's so enthusiastic about LinkedIn in there. So I'm incredibly excited as a keen user of LinkedIn to see where things are going to move in the next 6.
I'm sure after he was doing a lot more conversation about, because he only, in his last book, 12 years ago, whatever, Jab, 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 Right Hook, I think, Jab, 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 Right Hook, he didn't even mention LinkedIn. It wasn't part of his strategy. Now he's all over it. So the more that he's talked about it, actually more people have come onto LinkedIn because he's been talking about LinkedIn. So there's a thought leader showcasing, talking about thought leader things and bringing people onto new platforms.
Yeah, and that's only beneficial for everyone else on the platform as well.
Yeah,
100%. So you spoke about earlier the idea is sampling, and you linked that to your days at Red Bull. So let's talk about that. So 2001, you joined Red Bull? Was
Yeah, I didn't. I did. I was in. I was with an event in 2000 at the Gold Coast Big Day Out where we brought in a 50-foot Red Bull skate ramp over from New Zealand, and that was the first time, and that was mind blowing to see the brand. Then I actually worked for them in 2001. I got my position, and it wasn't easy, to be honest. Like I had 300 accounts that I had to go and service. Right. So how was one person? So obviously you can imagine I had to start very central in the metropolitans, get it really pumping in the main clubs and bars and hotels, casinos, and then slowly move out from metropolitan out to the suburban areas and things like that, and then run events to get Red Bull noticed. And oh, it was fantastic. We were such a small team back in that time that we had so many hats to wear. To think what it is now, it's gone from a beverage company to a technology company is mind blowing. So I was lucky enough to have a great territory. I had Gold Coast and then Byron Bay as well. So I got a great story in regards to trying to get Red Bull into the Byron Bay Hotel, which is the Beach View one. For 4 years, they said, we're not interested. And I said, you've got to be joking. You've got backpackers and Red Bull's such a big brand. And I ended up having to get it in through the guy who was the manager at the time. His name was Buff, believe it or not. He was the president of Byron Bay Surf Club. So I actually started supporting the surf club by giving them unbranded but colourful point of sale and eskies and product and that, and got him to get more heartfelt with the brand. And then we trialed 10 cartons and they sold out within that weekend. And then they started ordering pallets. But it took us 4 years to get it in, just consistently trying to get the product in. And consistency is everything after a while. And then they did, I think, in their first year, $250,000 on my product.
Wow.
So you can see consistency and believing in a product. And it was only one person standing in the way, just didn't believe the product. And I was like, you've got to, you have to try this. It's a globally recognized drink all around the world. And when he got it in, obviously, because it had mixerability with the vodkas and things and Jaeger bombs and all that, it just started to go really well.
That just goes to show how much you just got to keep hitting the same door. Eventually, it's going to come off the hinge.
Yeah, absolutely. But we had athletes that were sort of telling the brand story once again to a lot of the videos. So I remember I looked after the Hog's Breath account and I would take them in a video, which is a multiplayer of all the athletes, and they would put up on their main screen and have that overlay, have play all day. And that brought the brand essence in. Then I'd had the product in the fridges and I had the bar talkers and the table talkers. And I just had that in those key accounts and then just sort of multiplied it through all my accounts. And you couldn't go into the city or any of these main high activity events without seeing Red Bull. So yeah, it was great. But we had lots of competition. We had lots of competition trying to come in and take our position and saying that. And we had a passing off issue where people were selling in other products. And then when people asked for Red Bull vodka, they were using another product. So yeah, we had some real issues back in the day. Had to get our legal team involved in everything.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest lesson that you learnt working with Red Bull? Because that's a brand that so many marketers would dream of being with, and you were with them in their relatively early days in Australia compared to where they're at now.
Part of the early leadership team. The best thing about it was even going down to when I did my conferences and they flew us all in down to Port Stephens or whatever, and everything was larger than life, like the presentation screens, all the athletes and the branding. And so I had hearts and minds from the word go as an employee. So you imagine me when I was going back out into the trade. I remember I was in Brisbane at a restaurant and I was selling Red Bull and it was 9:30 at night. And the guy said to me, if you're here selling this now, I'll take a case.
Yeah.
It's about brand. It was about passion. It was about, I believed in the product because I'd seen it all around how it was doing all around the world. It's only a matter of time of getting into the product, into the businesses and let them sampling and trialing it. And yeah, it was just an incredible brand because we're very cutting edge. Like I remember the first event I ever went down to was in Sydney and it was called Red Bull X Fighters. And we put a exhibition motocross track with jumps on Darling Harbour from one Sydney barge to the next over a tugboat, and just incredible incredible events, mind-blowing, for
Yeah.
free. We didn't charge. It was building the brand ethos. And then in Western Australia, we had Red Bull Air Race,
Mhm.
and that was a free event. And it was just amazing what we spent on those events. And you can see how it's really, yeah, it's the number one energy drink globally now. So a phenomenal product.
And they're still doing the exact same type of initiatives as well. They're still showing that passion for the product, doing things larger than
Yeah.
life. Like they're jumping from space, they're jumping from planes to plane without a pilot. Like it's just ridiculous. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a high energy brand, So when you go into the point of purchase and you want to actually have a beverage to consume and you've got all your other beverages, Coca-Cola, whatever, but you want energy to get you through the day, to give you wings, you knew that was your product of choice. But it all came down to the sampling. If we didn't sample the product and give a clear, precise message of what the ingredients were, why to have it, when to have it, because you don't drink Red Bull, you use Red Bull. We always said that, right? It was a utility to use, wasn't a drink. So it was a different. There was only one competing in that market was Lucasade back in the day.
Yeah.
Before, now we came into Australia through a trans-Tasman agreement. We couldn't even sell Red Bull in Australia. We had to come through New Zealand as a weightlifting supplement because there was no category here.
Right.
So you imagine trying to sell a product in, there was no. So we had to go through the lawyers and everything. Anyway, we got it ranged in. And then we had to just hit the road. We used to take our athlete book out. We had a car. They were all branded at the start. We had to stop branding them because we were getting stopped at lights. Give us a Red Bull. Like unbrand the cars, right?
Gee.
And then go and sell it. But we used to have the Austrians come out and present to us at our big conferences, and it was just such an impactful brand. We just loved it. And I'm not sure if everyone knows, but it actually started as a Thai product. It's called Krattendang, and the owner Dietrich Manisic reformulated it and took it back to Austria and carbonated it for the Austrian taste, and then launched it into the ski fields, an après drink.
There you
But
go.
yeah, it's got such an incredible history. So yeah, I was very, very lucky to work for such a powerful brand in the early days. But one thing that was really interesting, I wanted to know the Red Bull way, if I could take that into small business enterprise and then roll it out. And I worked for a sports company with the same kind of marketing strategy. And I did podcasts and I was leveraging high energy activity and ended up taking this play our sports, went from number 6 to number 1, got into the Commonwealth Games. So I needed to see if this Red Bull way of strategy of marketing worked outside Red Bull, and it sure does. And so part of my strategy now, when I'm talking to my clients, is not just LinkedIn, but Red Bull, how you can be a great marketer and do things that are unusual and unique in the market.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about the LinkedIn platform. Even though it's giving us a user experience, we can reshape it and write and publish what we want to within the boundaries of LinkedIn, but curate it to be very direct for our clients to showcase their genius, rather than just showcasing us as a person on the internet and here's our CV.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to touch on that Play Hard Sports tenure that you had there,
Yeah.
because that was monumental for the 2018 Com Games on the Gold Coast there. The idea of podcasting, we touched on that earlier, in being such a great content tool, but it's also such an incredible relationship tool. And that was actually how you managed to get their equipment into the Com Games, correct? By building those relationships.
Well, just any accounts. When I turned up at the Play Hard Sports Company, they gave me a list of all the companies I was selling into and all the accounts they'd like to get. And the budget was really lean, very shoestring. So I had to think, how am I going to get the attention? Because I'd ring them up and I'd say, I've got some sports equipment. Can I come down and see you? Like, oh, we're good. Thanks. We're good. We've got a supply we've been using for 25 years. We're good. I'm like, oh, well, how are we going to build that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I came up with the idea early days of podcasting to start my own show called Behind the Games. And I took my 5 key accounts and I'd ring them up and I said, I've got a podcast show called Behind the Games in lead up to the Commonwealth Games. Can I actually come down and interview you what it's like to run a professional sports business? And they just, red carpet, come on down. So I went down and I ended up doing a podcast, and I used LinkedIn as getting the detail to actually do the interview, right?
Mm.
And what I got to do, I made sure within my questions, sprinkled through them, was who was important to the success of the business. And I always made sure I asked about the wife.
Ah,
When he would talk about how wonderful she's been, have a guess who he would when I would do the post production and send it down to the guest and say, "Can you just listen to it before I go live?" He would they'd always play it to their partner, who's their wife, and she would hear how much he loved her and the relationship. So when I'd call him up and I'd say, "What did you think of the podcast show?" He just said, "We loved it, fantastic." And he'd say, "Are we buying enough off you?" And I said, "No." He said, "I'll put you through to procure it. I'll
very
procure it." And then I would up the order. So I did this podcast show. I was getting on more of these clients, and I just built the business. We went from number 6 to number 1, and then obviously that got us through LinkedIn, meeting a few more people throughout the procurement of the Commonwealth Games. So we had a hammer throw cage, which was the best in the world at the time, and it was just beautiful luck that we got the contract to go in, and we had our product sitting there in the Commonwealth Games.
amazing.
It's dream stuff, isn't it? Like, you've got to think.
Well,
But it was the out of the box thinking, because I could have tried and just keep hitting the phones and trying to get my product into someone who's already satisfied. I had to do it a Red Bull way, out of the box, come around from the corner, do something different, get the attention, and then tell them how good the product was. Before you sell anyone anything, you first got to get their attention.
yeah.
Video is a great product, a great medium. Get their attention, be serving to them, build a relationship, and those closest to the consumer always win. Always.
And podcasts are just such a simple tool, and people overlook it. They think, oh, podcasts, you're just talking about this and that, but it's like you're actually talking with someone. You're building a relationship with someone.
Well, everyone wants to tell their story, right? And what I used to say to my guest here, I used to say, think about this. This is the first time in history that either you'll be heard in your family chain forever. Your grandkids will now listen to you for the first time ever, because you don't know what your great grandfather sounded like. So whether you're a matriarch or patriarch, now we get to hear your story. And they would just be like, whoa. Anyway, so obviously with the post-production, I had a big lead in and the big fanfare of music, and I then gave it to them, and they could actually show their family. So it was just such a customer experience for them, even before I started selling product in.
Mm.
So and when I went to the Canberra trade show for the sports, everyone else had their booth with all their products. I had a podcast booth, and I had them all lined up, ready to do their story. But on the walls of the podcast booth, I had pictures of our assets.
Yeah.
So while they're waiting, they're looking at these, Commonwealth Games and all these big sports equipment. I was already qualified as the number 1. Now I was just getting their story and building relationships.
That's it. All subconscious psychological selling.
The Red Bull way, building relationships, energizing the client. Yeah, it's just amazing.
And for people that are wanting to get into podcasting and do this type of business development in this way, they don't have to go on the big scale straight away and have cameras and lights and microphones and all that. They can start very simple on LinkedIn, correct? Audio events and video events, right?
Not even that. In the comments, start talking.
Yeah.
Then go from there, because people will notice and they'll reply, and then take it to an audio event or a LinkedIn Live and get your technique and specialty up there. And then from that, you'll probably get a speaker's engagement to do speaking, and then you just start doing more and more and more and more. And that's what we said at the very start. What you have to do to be valuable on LinkedIn is just start. Just start posting, start engaging, start doing LinkedIn Live, start doing LinkedIn audios, start doing podcasts, do everything.
Yeah.
It's an and game, not an all game, as Gary Vaynerchuk says. Shall I do this or that? No, do it all. And people say to me, oh, Steve, I haven't got the time. And I actually say, get up earlier.
Yeah.
I get up at 3:30 every morning, Didier.
Mm.
I'm into my day 3-4 hours before anyone even gets up. I've listened to 3 good podcasts. I've trained. So by the time I get into my clients, I'm like, energy, let's go. And because I've listened to so many great progressive podcasts of the best business professionals, when I talk to my clients, I'm just going to exchange some stuff they were blown away with.
Again, goes back to
So
that sampling, the providing that value. 15 minutes, just bang, bang, bang.
here it is. Here's today's gold. It's amazing.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Steve, I'm going to ask you two questions as we finish up this morning.
Yeah.
Two very short and sharp ones. And the first question you kind of almost already answered in terms of Red Bull, but we'll see if you can dive into something a little bit different perhaps. So the two questions are, what is the biggest lesson that you learned over your career as a marketer?
Yeah.
And then the second question is, what one tip would you give someone who is completely fresh to marketing to help them improve by 1% today?
All right. The biggest lesson I've learned as a marketer is everything's got overalls and it looks like work. Nothing happens without doing the work, right? So make sure that you are, being very strategic within, and it just comes back to mindset and skill set, because you've just got to make sure that you are doing the work and being an all-time learner, especially the way that marketing's moving, because what we were taught at university is no longer really current, strangely enough. And where we're getting most information is people like the Gary Vaynerchuks who are in market, trialing, testing, and then telling us. So our universities, that's why I'm listening at these early morning starts, because I'm listening to these podcasts where he's Professor Vaynerchuk, because he's in market testing and telling us what works. So the education's there. So that's number one. Always be learning, always be testing, and just get into the game. And what was the second question?
So for someone new to marketing, but completely fresh, what was your one tip that you'd give them to be 1% better today?
Make sure that their health's good. I know it sounds crazy, but you've got to have health. You've got to, because your health is your wealth, right? You've got, from good health comes good persistence, comes good tenacity. Yeah, I'm a bit unorthodox because I live by my rule of what's worked for me. I've got every job I've ever gone for. I got to a situation where I was so comfortable in my success as marketing. I used to go onto Seek and get job interviews in marketing, win the role, and then some not interested, because I just want to see if I could do it, right? Because I got bored. So yeah. And being a lifelong learner, you're always ahead of the curve. So you've always got that skill set, and you've got that um, genuine trust in yourself and your ability. I could go into any marketing company and I'd start podcasts straight away. I'd go, what accounts do we need to get? I'm going to get them on podcasts. I'm going to go get them to tell their story. I'm going to build the relationship. I'm going to overservice them, and I'm going to give them the best product they've ever had, because I believe in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't work for them.
Yeah.
So you walk in with that much energy, and they'll sit up in the chair. They'll go, wow, we've got a live wire here. What's he got going on? So it's how you show up.
Passion's contagious, Steve.
It is. It's so contagious. It's so contagious. But what else have we got? We've got a pretty challenging world. Let's make positivity louder.
Yep.
We know how challenging it is. Let's just look at before I did this morning, after I trained, I was down on the beach. Beautiful day. Whales. I'm lucky, but I put myself in this situation to do this.
Steve, thank you so much. It's been phenomenal to chat, and the tips that you provided on the LinkedIn optimization is so critical, because people, as you said, they just need to start. It's more just to have. You can't just have a profile and leave it there. You've got to take the next step. You've got to optimize it. Then you've got to create content, and then you've got to build relationships with people. And you've shown that you've done that over your career, from Red Bull to Play Hard Sports, and then today as a LinkedIn strategist. You do that every day. So, Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. We are in the relationship economy. You've got to understand that, like with the rapid adoption of AI, the knowledge economy is now giving way to the relationship economy, because you can get knowledge anywhere. It's AI. but who are we and what are our values we exchange? And will I be there for you tomorrow and the next day and the next day, giving you 100%? That's that's the relationship economy. Give, 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 then ask. But make sure it's a good ask.
So where's the best spot people can find you, Steve? Just through LinkedIn?
I think LinkedIn. Yep. I'm under LinkedIn High Performance Trainer, Steve Dart, and I'm obviously doing contract work with Ubuntu, Connection with Intention, and this is very human to human, contemporary human to human. So we are specializing in, we also do handwritten cards. So that tactile approach, because you've got client attraction, but you need client retention. So you need all those little specialties and novelties to keep people close to you. So that's one of the things we do within the brand as well. But LinkedIn, definitely the optimizing a profile, having a strategy, having outreach message strategy, telling you how to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, building a book of business, using Account Hub, using all that sales intelligence. So your ideal clients surface to the top, then just go be brilliant to them.
Love it, Steve. Thank you. I'll link all your links in the show notes, and I very much highly encourage people to get in touch with you because you've changed my approach on LinkedIn and it's been very successful so far, and I'm sure it will be going forward. So, yeah, very much highly recommend get in touch with Steve, guys.
Thank you, Diddy. And let me just say that I'm very impressed with how much you've committed yourself to it because your future is so bright because every day you're 1% better on this platform and I'm seeing it and it's getting better and better and better. And you just need to give yourself a big pat on the
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Very tough in the start. I remember we had a few conversations where he like, Didier, you just gotta post, And it was finding, it was tough to find time to post and create content. And now I've gone from posting once a week to 5+ times a week. So slowly building, and that's the best way to go about it. Just consistent over time.
Yep, consistent and congruent. That's the key.